In this video, we are going to learn comparing and ordering rational numbers. So let's remember the symbols we use when we are comparing numbers. We use the greater than sign, the less than sign, and the equal to sign. When we are ordering, that is when the directions say order from least to greatest or order from greatest to least. When we are ordering from least to greatest, we know that our negative numbers must come first, the smallest one being the biggest negative, then 0, and then the positives. From greatest to least, it would be the positives, the biggest number, and then 0, and then our negatives. Okay? Before we do the first question, I want to just talk about the positive numbers 2 and 3. If I was comparing the numbers 2 and 3, I would say that 2 is less than 3, or 3 is greater than 2. But if I had these numbers as negative, the same numbers, if I had -2 and -3, now when we're comparing in the negatives, our bigger negative is actually the smaller number. So our sign is actually the opposite of what we would think. So -2 is greater than -3. We can also look at that on a number line. If we have 0, -1, -2, and -3, -3 is right here and -2 is right here. So -2 is closer to 0. -2 is bigger than -3. So when we look at example number 1, we are going to see that we have -12.4 and -12.65. In the positives, 12.65 is bigger than 12.4. So in the negatives, 12.4 is bigger than -12.65. The same is true for the next problem. -12, compare -12.98 and -12.89. Well, since -12.89 is closer to 0 on our number line, it is bigger than -12.98. Now when we go over to fractions, we have example number 4. One way that we can compare fractions is by getting a common denominator. So what I'm going to do for this first example is I'm going to get a common denominator of 24. 6 times 4 gives me 24, so 5 times 4 is 20. And we still have a negative sign. I'm going to put the negative on top. In our second fraction, we have 8 times 3 gives me 24, so 5 times 3 is 15. So here, what we're actually comparing is -20 and -15. And -20 is less than -15. So our final answer is -5/6 is less than -5/8. We don't always have to get a common denominator. If I was comparing the numbers 1/2 and the numbers 5/8, I can use the idea of halves as kind of a guideline to if these numbers are big, which one would be bigger or smaller. So I know we have the number half, and the number half is right in the middle between 0 and 1. Here we have 5/8, and I know that 4/8 is half. So 5/8 is bigger than half. Okay? Now in the negatives, that means that -5/8 is smaller than -half. In the negatives, it is opposite. Okay? Let's go down to ordering rationals. So we already talked about ordering rationals is when it's from least to greatest or greatest to least. In this question, we have on Monday, the temperature was -0.2 degrees Celsius. On Tuesday, it was -1.5 degrees Celsius. It was -1 degrees Celsius on Wednesday, 2.4 on Thursday, and 1 3/4 on Friday. Write the temperatures from least to greatest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write down each one. -0.2, -1.5, -1, 2.4, and 1 3/4. So we have 5 numbers to order from least to greatest. Sometimes what I like to do is give us 5 placeholders so I know I don't miss one, and I try not, and I don't use 2 twice or use 1 twice. So we're going to start with the negatives, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the negatives, so I'm only focusing on the negative ones because the negative ones are going to be our smallest. Now our smallest number is our biggest negative number. So our first one is going to be -1.5, and I'm going to cross it off as I go. Our next smallest is either going to be negative 0.2 or negative 1, and I know negative 1 is even smaller than negative 0.2. And then our last negative must come next, negative 0.2. Now we're in our positives, so we're going to take a look at these two, 2.4 and 1 3/4, and I know that 1 3/4 is smaller, and then 2.4. Okay?